5% withdrawal rates during a deflationary time. Deflationary time. Deflationary? Is that right? Deflation time. We're going to look at two, the case of 1871 through 1900, and then we're going to look at the Great Depression from 1927 to 1956. That would either way. We got two 30-year samples of a depression, deflationary time, and what happened if you withdrew 5% a year. And we're going to use the old-fashioned barbell. So we're going to go back to 1871 with the S&P 500. We got $200,000, $100,000 in each. A dollar account just sitting in cash, presumably FDIC insured. There was no FDIC insurance back then, but that's all we're going to do. We're not using bonds. We're just using, I mean, in this case, you can even put in a safe box. I don't care because we're literally not giving you any interest rate at all. You're not making any money on your dollar, none, because we're assuming it's in a safe box, some kind of, under your mattress. But we're assuming it's just sitting there. Now you got the S&P 500. So the perfect barbell, 50-50, stocks, cash. And we're using the real returns of the S&P 500 and the not real returns of cash, because cash, again, we're not giving any interest rates. However, because it's a deflationary time, cash is inherently drawing a positive return. But what we're using the positive return is saying we're going to take 5% a year from our portfolio. So we have a portfolio of 200,000 schmackes. We're taking 10,000 a year out of that, and we're going to adjust it each and every year with inflation, or in this case, deflation. So you'll see, the first year we need 5%. Well, the first year, after the first year, we need 9,300. After the second year, we still need 9,300 because we had no inflation or deflation. The third year, we needed 9,160. The fourth year, we needed 8702 because we had significant deflation in those years. 7%, 2%, 5%, 4.5%, 3%. So by the time 10 years goes around, our $10,000 annual with distribution was $77.86. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to pull the money from the S&P 500 as long as the S&P 500 had positive returns. If it had negative returns, we're going to pull it from cash. Okay, so in this case, we got 1871 going back to 1900. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years of the 30 from which we pull from cash, right? Yeah, 8 years from the 30. Let's just double check that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5.49, 6, 7, 8. Okay, 8 years, which we're pulling from the cash because the S&P 500 had negative years. Oh, got to sneeze. Hold on. Excuse me. All right, so we have, so actually that's interesting. So of 30 years, 8 years were down. So we take 8 divided by 30. That's a 26% of the time we had negative returns. Interesting. All right. So let's go into this. This is I find this fun. Now, again, for those who say, oh my goodness, no one had $200,000 back then just reduce it by a factor of 10 or 100. I don't care. It's all percentages. It has nothing to do with the actual dollar amount. The reason I'm using $100,000 is because it's a nice, round, easy number to grasp. All right, so at the end of year, so what's happening here? So you'll see, if you see my formula up here, we're taking D2, timesing that by C3, and subtracting by right here, which is J3. All right, so we're taking D2, timesing that by our returns, subtracting that by the amount of money we need the following year. So we're assuming you had $10,000 sitting on the side to start your retirement, to last you through 1871. At the end of 1871, you needed 9313 because that's 5% of the initial portfolio value adjusted with inflation against the deflation. All right. So at the end of year 2, we take D4. I'm sorry. We take, what do we do here? We take so we give us a number. We times that, how can I say this? We take this number, times it by the next year's rate of return. This is the ending year value, right? Take that number, times it by the next year's rate of return, and then subtract by the amount of money that's required to live on. And that gives us this. All right, so now the next year, though, unfortunately, because we had a down year, so we take this number, the previous year, end of year, 31 December, end of year, times it by the negative return that we had that year, and that gives us that. But in this case, we're taking the 9160 that we need from that year from this account right here. I hope that makes sense. So we're saying, okay, we have $100,000. We're not making any money, none whatsoever. So we start the year of F5. Let's see. We start the year equals F. Oh, right here. I'm sorry. We start with $100,000 at F5, but we're going to take out what we need here, which is J5, and that gives us an ending year of that. Hope that makes sense. So essentially, what was going on? I don't know how to explain this any more clearly. Hopefully you can follow that. But we're starting the year with $100,000. Because the S&P 500 was down, we had to take out the amount we needed to live on, which is 9160. We're ending the year at 90,840. All right, so the following year, doing the same thing. We're taking the amount of money we had previously, times it by the positive return of the S&P 500, subtracting it by the amount of money we live on. Again, I hope that makes sense. So we're going to keep doing that until 30 years are gone, and then we're dead. So we started in 1871. We end up in 1900. We have, I think here, yeah, and here we got $261,000 in the S&P 500, and we still got $37,000 in cash. We had to take out $223,000 all told because it's deflation. I mean, look, we started with having to take out $10,000, and then we only had to take $6,400. So in this case, in a deflationary time, that cash really saved our butts. Now, I want to show you something. 223,511 is the total amount we had to take out. Divide that by 30. We've averaged $7,450 a year as a distribution rate. In fact, this year right here, we're taking $6,412 off a portfolio that's worth 261 plus 37. It's 298 divided by 64. So we're taking 4.65% here. So our distributions percentage-wise have gone down. So we've done just fine. I mean, without question. In the 1870s, we did fine, even though we had deflation. And then if you factor into going to Teddy Roosevelt's time, we would have done even fine here too, up until about 1912. I mean, basically until World War I kicked in. We would have actually, even during World War I, look at that. Yeah, the next 20 years we would have done fine. Now we do have inflation. All right, we got 1.1, 1.1, 2.3, 1.1, deflation, 2.2, 4.4, deflation here, deflation, 0.44, 4.4%, 1. So nothing extraordinary until World War II kicked in, 1 kicked in, when it went to 7.9, 17, 17, 18, 15. So that was the deflationary time of the first series. So let's go down to the Great Depression here. And we're going to start in 1927. Excuse me, I got a cough again. All right, we're going to go from 1927 all the way up to 1957, I think. Yeah, I did to 57. And the reason we're starting here is because 1927 is the first year of deflation, if that makes sense. All right, so we're starting with $100,000 in S&P 500, $100,000 in cash. And again, we're not giving us any interest rate, which is we're leaving money on the table because the 10-year bonds back then were doing about 3.5%. We're just not going to give that to us. We're saying, nope. Actually, what are they doing back then? 10-year bonds were doing, where's a 10-year? Hold on a second. Let's see. Do I got the 10-year in here? I got it here someplace. Blink. Yeah, 10-year treasury. So 10-year bonds were doing from 1926, yeah, 3.6, 3.25, 3 3/3. Yeah, 2 to 3. So nothing fancy, but we're not even doing that. We're saying we're getting no interest rate at all. So we're starting with deflation. And what we're going to do is we need $10,000 out the first year. Again, we're going to assume you had that on the side, and then you're going to retire with $100,000 in cash at the end of 1926 and $100,000 in the S&P 500. The following year, the S&P 500 is up 37%. So what we're doing is we're taking $100,000. We're timesing it by 37.1%, which is our rate of return, subtracting the amount that we needed, which is J61 right here, and we're left with 127. We're doing the same thing the following year. So the first 2 years of 1927 and 1928, when we had deflation in both those years, we actually we freaking kicked butt, took names without question. So we're at 178 here with 100,000 sitting in cash. All right, now we're going back. We got 4 straight years. In fact, 5 of the next 6 years are just freaking, we got hammered. This is the worst markets we've ever seen. Down 9.5, 22, 44, 5, 6, up 56 and down 8, up 32, down 32. So what's happening here is now we're not touching our portfolio simply because the cash is going to have to provide us our money. So the next year we had 178. We lost 9.4%. So we're down to here. Then we lost 22%. We're down to here. And then we lost 44%. We're down there. Then we lost 5.8%. We're down to there. Ooh, painful. Then we're up 56%, and we're up 65,000 times 1.567 minus the amount of cash we needed, so we're still up to 95. And then the next year we're down 8. See how that's going? Then we're up 54, up 32, so up 54. And then we got to take the cash out of here, up 32. We got to take the cash out of here. 1937, we're down 32. So we don't take it from there. 1938, we're up 17. So we take our 110 times 1.17 minus 7,900 bucks. That leaves us that. The same thing the year. And then 1940, we're going to the Great War. Is that the Great War or World War II? I can't remember anymore. But anyway, so because the war is driving me crazy. And we had a couple bad years here. And what you can see is then we have, during the war, the markets actually did fine because of the war machine. The first year after the war is when we started getting trounced with some deflation right there. 1949. Okay, it wasn't bad. Actually, we had a pretty significant inflation in look at that, 1946, 47, and 48. Then 1949, we had deflation. Long story short, by the time 1957 came around and we only made 9.3%, we're down 9.3. We still had $427,000 in our portfolio. But inflation came back around. In fact, from 1939 onward, we had inflation. So we needed $7,800 in 1939, $7,900, 83, 92, 97, 99, 10, 1, 11, 12, 13, 13, 13, 14, 15, 15, 15 a year. And then we had a little bit of deflation here. Where was it? Maybe we didn't. I thought I saw. No, I guess not. All right, we had a little bit. One sec. Oh, I guess let's go back. There we go. 14, 14, 15. So by the time 1957 rolled around, what was initially a $10,000 distribution that we needed was now $15,875 because we did have some pretty significant inflation. So we had 420,000 in our portfolio. Stocks with 21,000 are cash. By the way, right here, I did not take the cash from the cash bucket. I did not take our income needs from the cash bucket because, look, we only had 21,000 left. We had 271,000 to start the year. So I said, let's just be smart here. And then right here, I didn't do it either. And so I'm not going to exhaust the cash when our stock portfolio is way up. I'm just not going to do that. So look, I'm not following exactly what I did previously, but at the end of the day, I'm saying, look, I'm just not going to take it from the cash. I want to keep some cash on the side. We could have easily taken from the cash here and saved us another $15,000, which would have grown another 56%, another 28%, 6%. But I said, no, let's just take it from here because our cash is almost empty anyway. So when all said and done, we had 450. After 30 years during the Great Depression and World War II, we had to take $15,875 out of $450,000, and that is a 3.5% distribution rate. So you survived just fine. At a 5% distribution rate with real rates of return, and one was all deflationary, and one was half. The first 14 years were deflationary. The next 16 years were inflationary. That just shows you how corrupt that 1966 to 1982 time frame was. Just horrible. But we're not there. It's not happening like that. I mean, it could, sure. I have no idea. But, man, people, we're not anywhere near that, my friends. It's not a concern of mine at all. But the barbell is what you want. Some people say, who was it? Joe Thomason said, the barbell is not the most efficient in terms of portfolio growth. Yeah, we're not trying to get growth. We're trying to get protection that we have money to live on for the rest of our lives. So hope you find this helpful. I'd love to hear your comments. I got another video on along these lines later on. I forgot what I was going to do with spreadsheets. I forgot, but stay tuned. All right, we'll see you.